Welcome to episode 5 of the Road to 2200 series. Let's jump into our first game, and we've got the white pieces. I'm going to start off with the move e4. Our opponent is 1971 rated, and we're only 12 rating points away from 2000. So now I'm going to play this move knight f3, and I'm going to try and go for an Italian, one which we haven't actually played during this Road to 2200 series yet, and so it's going to be very nice and interesting to see how we do. So h6 is the move played. It is very, very uncommon. It is, I believe, called the anti-fried liver attack. The anti-fried liver defense. And so now we need to decide what we want to do. In the Italian, c3 and d4 are never bad options. I could try and go for an early d4, and I think that's what I'm going to try and do. Seeing as they've played a move on the flank, I'm going to try and strike in the center immediately and see how we can do here. So this does look pretty interesting, and now our opponent captures. I could try and gambit another pawn to go for this, but instead I think I'm just going to capture in the center with my knight, and this does look pretty cool. If they want to take, we'll capture back, and yeah, it does look pretty nice for now. And we'll just see what our opponent decides to do. And also, our king is ready to castle whenever we need. They do attack this. However, I'm thinking of maybe... This doesn't work because they can always take with their knight. But now we need to think about what we want to do. Could simply just drop back here. Or we could go for something like queen e2 and defend this and then take if they take. But I'm going to go bishop b3. This does look pretty decent. And f4 could also be on the way. But maybe there are some threats such as this. Castling never looks too bad. Maybe a move such as bishop f4 could also help us quite a lot. Maybe queen h5, I'm thinking. Because if they play this, maybe not actually. Because there is no mate threat anyway. But f4 doesn't quite look like the move I want to play just yet. In case of certain things. Could go for knight c3. Could be a good option. But maybe bishop f4 also does look pretty nice. But then again, if I play f4, they play queen h4 and I go here. It's not like they can actually take anything anyway. But then again, I could just castle my king. I think I am going to castle my king, because if you're in doubt, just castle. Not always, but in this case, it does look like a decent move. And also, we can also maybe go for moves such as c4, and then maybe try and go for c5. In the future, I'm thinking about, but certainly not yet at all. I want to get these pieces into the game. Preferably this bishop first, and then the knight. And the reason I probably could try and do this as well, actually. Knight c3, knight e2, and knight g3. They do activate their queen, a very, very nice move from our opponent. And yeah, it could be dangerous for us in the future if they try and come into this kind of side of the board just like so. So we do need to be quite careful, but certainly not anything to worry about too much. But we do also then again always need to be careful. So we could play this move knight f3. Reason being, it immediately offers a trade of knights and also attacks their queen. But my only issue with this is they could capture here. But then again... We could take. If they take with their queen, then there's rook e1 and we win the queen. So if we take, they take and we take, then this pawn is defended. If we go here, they capture our pawn straight away. I capture the knight. If they capture with their pawn, then I could just play something like rook e1, and that also looks pretty good. So I'm going to play this move knight f3, because my idea is after take, if they play take straight away, then I take and they take with their queen. Rook e1 just wins the queen like so, but they do capture with their knight. I'm going to capture with my queen. It is also threatening f7, which is a really, really nice move. And of course, they decide to block it. So now we need to think about maybe we could go for something like c3 and then this, but I don't really think that does too much. But their king isn't castled yet, so maybe we could try and take advantage of this. But I do need to think about how we could perhaps do that. If I play e5, maybe rook e1, rook e1, rook e1, bishop f4, no, maybe knight c3. Knight c3 certainly doesn't look too bad. I'm going to play this move knight c3. This could be an issue later on, but I mean, we'll just play this. If they bring their bishop here, I'll just play queen g3, which is actually what we just calculated, which looks perfectly fine. It certainly doesn't look too bad for us. Also, the knight is doing a nice job defending this e4 pawn as well, which is really, really cool for us. If they take, I may be inclined to actually capture back with our f pawn, even though it gives us an isolated e pawn. Reason being, it opens up this rook, but maybe that's not the right option. But then again, I mean, if we just take with this pawn, then I'm going to take with the f pawn. It does kind of give this pawn some sort of a weakness along the e-file, but then again, it could also be used to our advantage, so I'm just going to go for it, and it does open up our rook, certain ideas in the future, also allows our bishop to come here with being very, very defended if need be, and if we take, I'd rather not take ourselves, could jump into d5 actually, that certainly looks like a move. If they take, we'll just capture back, then this rook is also opened up, and could certainly be an option, because if they do take, then there is no isolated pawn on the e-file as well. So then we could just place moves like c4, bishop c3 in the future, and we've totally supported it. So now I'm just going to take back with our pawn. I think it gets our pawn off the weakness of the e-file. It also opens this up for our rook, which is really, really nice. And bishop e3, bishop f4 could also be an option. Bishop f4, there is g5, but then I'll just take, and then capture. So that isn't too bad either. Could be a little bit of a trap we could set, perhaps. But we'll see. I'm going to go bishop f4. If they play g5, we have this nice little tactic here, I think. And that is pretty cool. If they go, okay, look, the tactic has occurred. They take, we take, and we capture the knight, which is really, really nice. I don't think they can do anything to kind of combat that. So we do win a pawn with that nice little tactic there, which we did calculate. Quite a nice move there. And our opponent has gone offline. So yeah, our opponent has gone offline. But yeah, let's just wait and see. Maybe they'll come back online. And they've left the game. You can claim victory in 113 seconds. I'm going to put this on a time lapse if they end up aborting the whole game. And then we'll jump straight into our next game. But they have joined. They have joined back. So now they are back online. And now I'm going to capture on f6. Maybe they lost some connection or something, but that's what happens in online chess. This pawn on f7 is being attacked. And now, rooks on the 7th rank are very, very strong. Because we're going to capture here and they're going to capture here. But my idea after this is just to play rook e1. And maybe start to try and infiltrate here. Because after rook e1, they're probably going to play something like, I don't know, here. And then I could just play rook d7. But I do need to be careful because then there are certain checks on my king. So I am going to capture here. I don't think that's too dangerous for us. And by the way, if you are enjoying the content, we're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So do feel free to subscribe if you are enjoying the video. And yeah, so they've captured on b2 as we suspected. Could just play rook f1 as well, but rook e1 also looks nice. But then if they just counter us with rook e8, could just play this as well. I mean, that could be a pretty cool option. Or we could just maybe play rook f1 as well. Rook f1. I'm going to go for rook e1. It controls more files, I suppose. They're probably going to play a move such as rook e8. Either one of these. Well, in a minute they will do, probably. I don't want to go here because they have this. I'd rather just jump in here. That looks fine. Oh, wait. I think they had a rook sack for mate. I think they could have sacked their rook. In theory. For a mate. But they didn't spot it, so that's fine. But that was a very, very close call, actually. Thankfully, we kind of realized that. But they could have sacked their rook for a win there, which is interesting. So if we play, I don't know, obviously they're threatening this because we can't capture because of this, which could be really, really dangerous for us. If I'm to play this, though, I mean, how are they going to... Or if I'm to play this, then they might have this. If I just play rook d3, and then if they try, I don't know, they could do a couple things. If they try to maybe, obviously not here, but if they try and maybe stack up with their rooks and try and come along this file, then I'm free to just play h3 and then g4, because this rook is already defending this, went for me allowing to play h3, which would be really, really fun. But we do have about 2.5 minutes less than our opponent here, so that is also an interesting thing to take into account. Could try and win this g-pawn as well. This bishop isn't doing much either, so that could be a thing to look at as well. If I take and they take, and I just play king here, then they have this, so that's good that we calculated that. That would be a pin of the rook on the king, which would be absolutely tragic. But if I play this all of a sudden, kind of seizing control of the file, what are they going to do? If they just drop back here, I mean, then we have this same old kind of annoyance. So if I was to go here, they play g4, then they're solidifying this g-pawn here, which could always be a long-term target. I think I'm going to trade because of that, and then play this move rook f3. I think that looks fair enough. If they want to trade, so be it. We're up a pawn, but it is an opposite-coloured bishop endgame, but I do think the fact that we have all this could really, really help us. Now, though, g3 could be an option, and followed up by f4, but g3, do they have... Sorry, h3, do they have g4? That's the only thing we need to look at now. Because we can't take us of the pin. Because h3, g4... Is that a problem for us? If I was to go, I don't know, rook here. Then they take, we take, they take, I go here. It's kind of equal, but I'd rather not be equal when I can just wait for a minute. I'm going to play this move c4 in the meantime. Bring my bishop round here to stop this eventual g4 move. Transfer my rook over here, or maybe just bring it up one square. Okay, so now they're playing this, which is fine. I could just bring my rook here. This looks relatively decent. Although after this, they could try and eventually... Actually, no. If I go to d3, after this, I can play this because there is no bishop d4. However, had I gone to e3 with my rook, then now after this and king g1, bishop d4 would win the rook, just like so. So it's good that we played this move rook d3 instead, because this is safe, I think. And we only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to quickly take a sip of water. And yeah, onto the next move. We've got about half their time. Obviously, we are also explaining the moves and speaking and all that as well, which is nice. And let's see, rook f8 on the board. I've got to try and hopefully, I want to get this bishop, but I can't really do anything to get rid of it. But some moves such as h3 and then this in the future could really help us have this, well, this massive kingside pawn majority if we can get this traded off, which would really, really help us. Now, this doesn't really do much, seeing as our king is off this file. So that's good for us. Now I can just play this move bishop d1. Bishop d1, obviously attacking this g4 pawn. How are they going to kind of counter that is what we need to look at. If they just defend, that's fine. I don't want to go here, remember this. If I instead bring my king, could that be an option? Because my king just looks... But then my king does look fine. Like, it looks as if it's just chilling. If I go here and they want to give me a check, then I'll just go here. And then eventually my king's just getting way more active than theirs, and that will be fine. But now they're deciding to play this move c6. It looks like a decent move. If we take, they take. Our pawn structure isn't great if we do that. So I'd rather not. Instead, I could... Again, this doesn't work because of this. So instead, I want to try and kind of come around here and get this. Because if they take and we take... Probably take with our pawn, in fairness. Because then it does control the king a bit more. The black king a bit more if they want to do that. If they play a move such as c5, which we just saw, I could just play king e4, and really, I'm just going to eventually come here, and I'm going to win this pawn. It is always, there's a possibility of it going down to an opposite coloured bishop endgame, but my aim, this kind of mini goal now in this endgame is to win this g4 pawn. If we can do that, it will be really, really good for us. I don't really see any way in which black can stop us from doing it, because if we go here and they give us a check, well, we're just going to take here. If they go here and they do nothing, say a6, then we're just going to take here. They could do this, though. That actually looks really nice from black, in fairness. That does look like a really nice move. So what can I do instead to counter this? Something like h4. They take en passant. We take back. They capture with their rook. We capture. They capture. And I think we have an outside passed pawn, which doesn't look too bad. At all. But then again, I'm going to go for it because I only have 1 minute 45. Probably best not to be... although if they take with their bishop, then it's probably a bit annoying for us. If they take with the rook, though, then it's not. If they take with the bishop, that is a little bit annoying. Okay. So if we go rook f3, maybe try and get in here somewhere. But then again, their bishop is always defending. Could just play this, though. Oh, wait! Lovely tactic. Okay. Bishop g4. This should really help us win the game now. Thank God, look, we had a little bit of a... not a brain fade, but I'd say we had a little bit of a kind of reset in the brain there. And we managed to just look at the position, found bishop g4. Always look for checks. This is a really important lesson. Always look for checks. The idea is that this A gives a check, and B blocks the rook's defense of the bishop, which therefore means if they were to move their king, we just capture the bishop on the next move and we win. So now they're forced to kind of either do that or do something else. We capture the rook, and now we're up in exchange, which is really, really helpful. Really, really helpful. And this is really, really going to help us. So I can just bring my rook to this file. The king is not going to be able to come over here and kind of stop me from queening. Obviously, their bishop could try... but instead, I'm just going to bring my rook here, and we're doing really, really nicely. So that was a really, really nice tactic to save the game. But of course, we do still need to deliver checkmate. And we could kind of also use this pawn as a decoy. But then again, I don't think it'll actually come to that anyway. So, although I don't want to... I'm going to bring my... what am I going to do? I could just go here and then just sack and then just win the game. Although maybe not, because then they have b5. I'm overcomplicating it a bit. I'm just going to go here. If they play b5, I'm going to take, they take, and then eventually, I mean, it'll be fine. We'll go here. And in fact, there could be some mating ideas as well. Having said that as well. So I'm going to go here. Everything's fully defended, which is really, really nice. I'm just going to bring my king to e6. I'm going to walk my king to e6, in fact. And rook h7 looks really cool. I'm going to bring my king to e6 now. I think that looks like a decent move, because if they push, then we have... I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm overcomplicating it a bit. If I go here, and they go here. Yeah, I don't know what am I doing. What am I doing? Ah, no, sorry. No, I can't. Well, I can push this, and then we'll be in time to stop this. So push, push. They're forced to take. They take here, here, and then we stop the pawn from queening, which is nice. We could just push g7 if need be. I was trying to look for some sort of a mate, but then again the king can just move. Once this rook is off the f file, but that's fine. We got 14 seconds. Won't be too difficult, I think. Guess we'll just push this. Take, take. Take this. This is a threat of mate. You have to be careful. I'll just give a check like so. I'll capture this. Try not to stalemate, of course. That'd be tragic. We've got 6 seconds. It's fine. Nice. And we'll just give a check. Force you into the corner. Actually, maybe not. Could just make a queen if we want, actually. I'll go here. Try not to stalemate. That would be really bad. Give their king options where to move. They can always go to certain squares, so that's fine. I'm going to stalemate, aren't I? I'm petrified right now. But it's fine. We win with 89 hundredths of a second on the clock, which is really nice. We do win the game. And now we're up to 1998 rating. So we're only 2 rating points off of 2000. And we're going to jump straight into our next game here. Get to 2046 rated opponent, so he is going to be strong. They have bought the game, so let's jump straight into our next one, of course. And, okay, cool. I get to 2121 rated opponent. So this is going to be difficult, but hey, we're going to start off with this first move, e4 again. And the Caro-Kann. Okay, so I'm going to go for the fantasy variation here with f3, if they, of course, play this move d5 in the Caro-Kann. f3 is one of my favorite variations against the Caro-Kann. Thing is, though, I'm not fully, like, intact with the theory. I used to know some of the lines. I know the main plans. One of them being to open up this file, bring the rook over here, and just develop really nicely and all that. Queen b6 is one of the lines, and now I need to remember what to do against it. So yeah, now we need to have a little bit of a quick think. This doesn't look too bad for the moment. I could just play knight c3 if need be. Could just go knight c3. Could even push as well. I mean, pushing doesn't look too bad either. I'm just going to play this move knight c3. Can't go wrong with developing. I know queen b6 is one of the lines, because it also, in the future, could also prevent us from castling as well. If knight f6, I'm going to push. If, yeah, okay, they take. I could just take back with our pawn. I think that's kind of one of the main ideas that we want here. I'm going to take back with our pawn. They played e5, of course, challenging our d4 pawn. Could play knight f3. Could also play bishop e3. Actually, maybe not bishop e3. That's a bit of a risk there. But knight f3 certainly, or maybe we could just take. If we're to take, then this does become a bit weak. But if I play knight f3, it doesn't look too bad. In fact, it looks really decent. Knight f3, if they take, we'll probably just capture back with the queen if they want to trade, so be it. Then we have two knights out and they have none. Just like so. We do have an isolated e-pawn though, which is something to deal with. A bit like in the last game, actually. But, okay, so they're allowing us to capture their queen. They'll capture back, and then they're going to open up their rook. But now let's have a little bit of a think. If we go bishop c4, that's just developing a bishop. Could castle if we want. If we go bishop g5 instead... Oops, didn't mean to do that. If we go bishop g5 instead, Could be threatening to maybe wreck their pawn structure a little bit. And also, wait, bishop g5, they could always capture here, though. That's my thing. But then we have rook here. Threatening mate. So if they drop back to b6, that does look really nice. Then I'll just take here, and if they take, I take with my bishop. I'm going to play bishop g5, I think. Bishop g5 looks quite cool. But then again, we could have just calculated all that, and then they just take our queen, and then we just capture back as well. That is always a possibility. But if they want to capture on b2, then we may have some really cool rook d1 ideas. Which this would be mate. And my idea is that if they were to take here, rook d1, okay, bishop there. Okay. Let's think. We go to d2. They capture. We go here. That would just be mate, so they can't capture. Well, no. That wouldn't be mate, because then we have rook d1, and then it's their move. Instead, maybe we could go for something of queen d2. I don't know. So I don't really want to get involved with this check at all. Instead, I'll just go. I'll go queen d2, because it does stop this check. If they want to capture, that's fine. I'll just go rook d1. Or in fact, if they capture, I could go rook b1. That's something I haven't thought about. Because then they're forced to a3. They're forced to a3. Then perhaps there's something we can do from there. If then I go rook b3. Then they are forced to here. Which doesn't look too pleasant for black at all. Because this covers off this covers off this. And if they capture on b2, rook b1, queen a3, rook b3, then queen a5. Okay, so they go knight g4 instead, so that's all gone. Knight g4, I got excited for a moment. I thought that was... Well, I didn't think that was mate, but it did certainly look like it, obviously. So knight g4, threatening to come into f2, which could be... Well, it is a nice move. Bishop h4 could do a nice trick here, just to stop everything as well. If we go here, do they have anything else that could perhaps be nasty? I don't know. I could just let them come in, though, as well. Maybe not rook d1, though, because then we get this, which doesn't look too nice for us. I'm going to play bishop h4. Defends, well, kind of controls this f2 square a little bit more. Remember that now, because also another thing to note with this move, knight g4, is that this bishop now has kind of reigns over this diagonal. So now, technically, if they were to capture on b2, there is none of this rook b1, rook b3 thing. It is just mate, because this queen no longer defends d8. But I play bishop h4, it kind of defends f2. There is, like, for example, if they were to now try bishop f2, I just take. If they were to take back, take, and we end up winning a piece. Yeah, we'd end up winning a piece now. If they were to try and come into f2. So that's perfectly fine by us. If they want to capture on b2, perfectly fine by us. That's checkmate. Bishop e3, though, that's another move, which we do need to consider. Obviously, I kind of want to keep my queen on this file because of this mating threat, which by definition means that they can't come to b2 with their queen. But then again, if I was to go to d3, for example, then they may have this bishop check, which could also be annoying. Because if I was to go here, and we were to take, and then they take, that's just a fork. And also there is no more mate threat, because our bishop has moved. So instead, I think it's more important that we don't try and keep our queen on this file, but instead try and keep it in defense of this f2 square as well. So how do we do this? Maybe queen e2, try and not blunder anything, of course. Queen e2, if they capture here, though, then all of a sudden this is getting really dangerous. Because this they take, and then this is just awful. Our opponent is playing very, very strong chess here. So if I go queen queen d3, then they're just going to... If they play bishop f2, though, after queen d3 and I play king e2, instead of capturing my bishop, they take. We take. And then do they come in here with their queen? That's the thing. It is very, very difficult to kind of visualize this. Because I don't want to play queen d3, because then they're just... Oh, sorry, I don't want to play queen e2, because then they're just going to take here. Which is dangerous. If they do this... Not something I really want to get too involved with. But queen d3... Where else could I go on this file, though? I mean, I could go to d6. If I was to go to d6... Well, if I was to go to d6, then this is also mate, by the way. I'm gonna quickly just play this move, queen d6. I did spend quite a lot on that move. I probably should have looked at this move, queen d6, before, because there's nothing attacking it, and also this is just mate. This is the full-on mate threat here. Just straight where the king is meant to be probably castled. And now black can't castle their king as well. So if they try and go bishop f2 here... Well, bishop f2 does actually look like a good move, in fairness. Because if I take, they're probably going to take with their queen. I'm going to go here. Then they're going to go here. Then I'm going to... Well... Then there's this and that's mate. So... If bishop f2, I better not take that. But instead, if I go king d1, because bishop f2, I can't take it. I think it leads to mate straight away. After this, and then I'm forced along here, and that's mate. That's not good. Supported by the knight, by the way. So if they go bishop f2, I kind of just got to move my king. I don't want to go here, because then I run into this business, which isn't entirely pleasant. They go here, I go here, then... Oh, okay. Instead, they've retreated their bishop. Okay. How could we deal with this now? So, now we're kind of getting... I swear we just had this... Well, a similar kind of looking position. I do need to play a bit quicker. If I go queen d2 now, is everything safe? I mean... I don't know. It's got to play moves now more than anything. I can't go queen g3 because then there's this, which is bad. Queen d2, they take with their queen. This is mate. Queen d2. Knight here, is that possible? But then what does that do? I'm going to go queen d2. Because it kind of follows the same rules as the position which we saw earlier, when our queen was on d2 and our bishop on h4. Like, they can't actually come into the position in any way. And if they decide to capture here, it's mate. Like, look at the resemblance between this position and this position. In fact, it's the same position. So there we go. They castle their king. And so they decide to castle their king. Very nice move, of course. If I castle mine... I'm going to castle mine. I'm not going to waste any time here. Oh dear, I've just run into this. Queen blunder. Oh dear, I'm going to resign that. That's unfortunate, but yeah, just a queen blunder, what can I say? I'm going to quickly look at what would have been the best move there. What would have been the best move in this position? So here the position is actually equal. In fact, it's slightly better for white. It says this move knight a4, and then obviously we pick up one of these two, and that's quite nice. I mean, it says this move bishop e3, knight takes b6, and then we get this trade here, where they then take back with their a-pawn, and then this is apparently slightly better for white. So if only we had found that, and I think we're going to jump into our final game of the video. I don't want to end on a loss, of course. Instead, I'd rather end on a win, and let's see. And also, that's another thing to realize. I think I should look more into these Caro-Kann fantasy lines. I think it would be good to learn them a little bit better. So e4, I'm going to play the Alekhine's defense with knight f6. So far we've had one win and one loss. One win in the Italian game and one loss playing as white in the Caro-Kann. So this is our first game as black in the video. So now this is, well, will they play c4, will they play d4, will they play knight f3, will they play knight c3? There's a lot of things which can of course happen here, but we know what to do with each one. D4 is the main line, but then c4 can also transpose into the main line after d4. And then if they play, yeah, okay, this is what's happening. Now we play this move d6. If they take, we capture back. We get this bishop to e7, and we castle our king. They play this move knight here. Now we are free to capture. When they capture just like so, it's either c6 or it's this, and I can't fully remember now, which is a bit annoying. I think it is c6. Reason being to control this d5 square. Yes, it is c6, and then in the future we can play d6 if we want, preferably bishop f5, d6, and maybe bring our bishop here, or we could actually get our bishop onto this square as well. So we have a few options, of course, and yeah, it kind of depends on what our opponent decides to play here in the opening. Of course, we are only 10 rating points off 2000. My peak rapid rating is above 2000. I have been 2000 before. Yeah, my peak rapid rating is 2070, but of course this is a Road to 2200 series, so it goes up and it goes down. There are wins and losses, as you guys saw in that last game, against that 2200, so he was a very, very strong player for sure. And bishop f5 doesn't look like a bad move for sure. I mean, bishop f5 looks decent. Bishop f5. Bishop f5, bishop d3, take, g6. And that happens. Can we go for f6? But I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe not the best option actually. F6, g6 as well, always an option, and I think that is what I'm actually going to go for. Although first I'm going to play this move bishop f5, because if I play g6, then they might play. Well, they probably will play bishop d3, and then bring my bishop here is very weird, because then we get this, which is not really good at all. So instead I'm going to play bishop f5 here first. Okay, queen f3, fine. We could do a few things against this. We could just play d6. d6 looks perfectly solid. Reason being, d6, if they want to play g4 to try and dislodge our bishop, we'll just go here, and this defends this as well. If they try and go for h4, then, wait, d6, g4, here, h4, h5, take. We're hitting the queen and we're still defending. I think that's fine. Yeah, d6, that looks perfectly fine. If they want to play g4, so be it. We'll go here, and everything's defended. And if they want to play g4, and they want to capture, that's also fine by us as well. Bear in mind, our bishop now can also come to b4, seeing we've also played this move d6. Sorry, e6. Why am I saying d6? I mean e6. Today my coordinates have been a bit messed up, but that's fine. Let's see. g4, okay, this is the move that we mentioned. The reason for g4, by the way, is of course to try and get our bishop to move anywhere, wherever it may be, and then to try and capture here, and actually give checkmate. So I'm forced to come to this g6 square. h4, okay, so this is everything we calculated. So I could just play a move such as queen e7, which immediately, if they want to play this, then to try and get rid of our bishop, will capture. They'll capture. In fact, maybe not. Maybe queen c7 is a bit better, actually. Having said that, or h5 as well. h5 also looks like a move, which could possibly be played if they want to. Although h5, they play this. You know, h5 looks fine. Look, we want chaos. It's a nice, fun, rapid game. For the content, we're going to go for h5. If they push, then our bishop is never really going to be moved. So, okay, they capture our knight. Fine, we're going to capture back just like so. If they capture, we'll capture. Queen f6 can also come on the board, try and kind of tie things together with these pawns, just like so. These pawns could become a bit weak. They play this move g5. A nice move, actually, I think, from our opponent. Trying to sort of solidify these pawns in place and then maybe try and take advantage of them later on in the game. But bishop b4 certainly looks like a move with tempo now, so it doesn't look like too bad an option. I'm going to go for bishop b4. If they want to block with their knight, just like so, that's fine. Rook f8 could also be a nice move for us now. Tempo on the queen. But then queen e4 could be annoying. So yeah, we just need to think. If I go queen e... Actually, this is also supported by the bishop. If I go here, this looks like a cool concept. If I go to if I go here, then they play this. Then do I pick up the pawn? I suppose. Well, if I go here and then they play this, I take here as well. I'm going to go for knight a4. It does look kind of crazy, but it does add some really kind of disturbing pressure for white here. I think it does look like a pretty cool concept. And also, queen a5 could also come in the future, which does look pretty cool. Queen a5 does look like a nice idea, adding even more pressure. And there are no mate threats at the moment for white on our black king. It's perfectly fine. Our rook can always come to f8 if we want. Everything's nice and safe. And also, these pawns could also be viewed as weak, for sure. But on the upside, they are also doing a nice job at repelling white's queen from actually coming into our position. So there are pros and cons to this. But, I mean, knight a4 does look like a nice move if they want to try and... Okay, so they're going for this now. Okay. They're saying, you take here, this is going to happen. If this happens, then I go... Well, I could go queen e7. I could also just move my king as well. And then this kind of discovered... And then this also remains with this knight on this grand bishop here. So if I was to take, they take. I could just play this weird-looking move that I think... I mean, there are no more checks after this, right? I don't think there are. But if I was to take on c3, they take, and I was to go here, my only issue with this is this. And then it could be nasty. So I am going to actually go forth and take here. Also attacking white's queen, by the way. And if they want to take on e6, I'm actually going to play this move king f8. Reason being, I don't think there are any more checks for white after this, which could be really, really helpful. Could be really, really helpful for us. And, yeah, I mean, then this whole kind of... First of all, after queen takes e6 and king f8, there are now also discovered check threats, which could win material, depending on where white's pieces end up. But also, if they just want to take, then look at this beautiful fork as well. So that's cool. This is actually quite a cool move. So how are we gonna combat this is our question. I could take here. Reason being, they take, we are ready to capture back with our knight. Also with the threat of this as well. I could, however, just take on... I could just take on d4. If I take on d4, though, what changes in terms of my king's safety? They could come here. They could come here. If I end up here, and they want to capture my rook, then I have queen e4. This knight covers this. This is mate. But if I capture, they go here. I end up here. And there's no check here because of my queen, so that's impossible. So takes, check here. They want to go to c7 instead. What happens? I just block with my knight. I'm going to go for it. It looks really, really cool. And I don't think I'm blundering anything. Although maybe I am. I do need to be really careful with this kind of danger. But I do have this cool kind of idea after queen c8. I go here to f8. There are no other checks. Oh, wait. You can just take there as well. But that's fine. I mean, I can just capture on c3. I don't see the massive issue here. Capture on c3, queen c8. This not the same thing applies, though. Although this is actually mate after that. So, because, well, we're also attacking the rook, and we're threatening mate, because... Wait a minute. If I go here... I'd rather not go here. If I go here, though... We're attacking the queen. We're threatening mate. If you go to c7, I block with my knight. If you take this, I have a fork. And potentially... Well, I also have this later on. I think this is winning for black. Although, because of how complex this position kind of looks, it could also... I could be wrong. But this does look like a really, really cool game. That is for sure. That is for sure. But, I mean, if they take here... I'm going to take with check, of course. They could take on b7. But that's fine. I can just block with my knight. And this is still mate nonetheless. If you want to take, then again, I will just take. In fact, if you take... Wait a minute. Do I have... I have this now. You... Wait. I do. Oh, I think I have a mate. I go queen here. You can't go here because of the pin. You're forced to block with your bishop. Then I capture here. You're forced to block with your bishop again. And then rook 8 wins the game. And our opponent resigns. And we reach 2,000 as well. What a game. What a game. And what an end to the video. And yeah, we are on 2,000 now, as you guys can see. Maybe you can't actually see it. Anyway, I'll show you. There we go. Here's the 2,000 rating. We now reach 2,000. We are now into the top 6.3% of players. And I really hope you guys enjoyed that game. We've broken the 2,000 barrier. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed for more videos just like this one. We're very, very close to 1,000 subscribers. Links to the Discord, Twitch, and everything like that is in the description. And see you guys in the next one. What an end to the video. And bye-bye. Bye-bye.